I appropriate, I believe, $125 million each year. And not only is that an appropriation, but on the coming in from the behind are fines that arguably, and I'd ask this committee to look into whether or not those fines are pretty close to the actual appropriation. So you're absolutely right. We need to do both.
Senator Patrick and Senator Mason.
Thank you very much, Chairman Tuttle. Thank you, Senator, for bringing this issue forward, because I think having the second bill just shows how much we've got to do. And the difference in idea is that coming out for the one priority that the citizens brought me here is they said they want, first of all, primarily is to get the best possible deal we can get for the liquor business. That's the primary deal. First of all, before we do anything, we've got to make sure we've got in statute the best possible deal. In your statement, you basically kind of said that you didn't think there was that many problems since the original liquor stores. And in fact, from my understanding, I actually believe, as someone who's been on here for 11 years now, we actually have way more problems, and maybe I would ask you to agree, because since the proliferation of agency stores from a couple hundred to 400 or 500, would you not say there's a complaint with those people who signed the contract to get between 9 and 12%? I believe every one of them realized they signed on a dotted line whether we're going to have a huge liquor store or not have a huge liquor store, that they were going to 9 to 12%. Do you believe that that is actually a problem?
I do, because people's economic model is based on the statute, the law of the land. Many of these stores have been in existence for a long period of time under the notion that they were going to have limited competition within a certain market area. And that being said, the legislature, under its will and decision, changed that law. I would hate to think that the legislature would ever go backwards on that law. These are strong operations, small businessmen and women contributing to their families and their community, employing friends and neighbors. That being said, you always need to take that into consideration, because when market share erodes, it's smaller. Therefore, the anticipated business plan upon which a small business owner may have invested for agency liquor store may not be reliable. Getting to another point, Senator, this goes to my point earlier. We need to improve and increase the discount rate, the return for agency liquor stores. Right off the bat, liquor stores are losing 2.5% as a result of all of us using credits and debit cards. So that erodes their profit margin and it's their cost. I think many use it more as an ability to draw people into the store. From a square footage standpoint, it's probably one of their lowest performing square foot rates.
Thank you very much. Senator, where Representative Celestia brought up about liquor enforcement, when the state of Maine owned the liquor business, John Martin and Lynn Kayford actually had a department of 16 agents that were dedicated to going around the state of Maine to making sure our assets and the licensees' assets were protected. Another issue that you and I and others have talked to Representative Carey about is not just adding more liquor enforcement agents, which I think $1 million is way too short, because we have been cutting enforcement year after year after year and doling that out to local law enforcement sheriffs who have an expertise in this issue. But in fact, one of the major problems is that we don't really have auditors, and in fact, would you agree that possibly we need to hire and put in statute and compass in this bill that we have 2 auditors that would actually go and compare the sales tax records to the actual sales of agency stores, bars, and restaurants to make sure the tax revenue stream that should be coming is actually such as it should be, besides having those people going to bars and restaurants?
I would agree. You, just as I, have had this lengthy conversation. Representative Carey, much like myself, I don't think either of us are short-winded. But That being said, the state needs to obviously balance those interests with other competing priorities in the state budget. I think this committee should be very diligent and creative in how you try to fund those positions. I spoke earlier about the underage enforcement aspect, the youth program, excuse me. Sheriff Berry from my county, Saginaw County, is here today. I hope he has time to testify. We'll speak about how they effectively work with the state. Similar models, I'm sure, could be contemplated on the enforcement and the audit side. I mean, I think the opportunities are endless, Senator, even in regards to trying to really get our hands around the statistics in terms of what is leaving the state. Are we coordinating with the Department of Agriculture and looking at the redemption rate? Meaning, where are those bottles being returned? Are we seeing a drop-off? That could also help us determine where the liquor is being purchased. I would hate to think that if I buy liquor in New Hampshire on my way home from a vacation, that I'm going to drive back out of state to return a 5 cents bottle.
Thank you. Senator Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Goodall.
Senator?
A couple questions for you. Reading through your testimony, I'm trying to, keep pace with your amendment and the original bill draft. I guess my first question is, in your testimony, you say that the hospitals would be paid by September 30th. But as I look through this amendment, there wouldn't be a payment until June 30th of 2014. So where's the money going to come from?
Senator, this is a principle of the appropriation process. We as a state must balance our fiscal year every year. We pass a 2-year budget. Each year must be in balance. That being said, my proposal provides flexibility to the bidders through either multiple payments or one lump sum payment, an upfront payment. Now, if we receive the payment within the current fiscal year upon which we want to pay it out, that is legal, constitutional, and frankly, in this instance, in the best interest of Maine's hospitals.
But I guess my question still remains is why, if we don't have $100 million, the state does not have $100 million to float along, where are we going to get the $100 million? Well, actually, excuse me, $180 million, I think is what you said is what the state's share of the hospital payment is. Where is that money going to come from?
Mr. Mason, Senator Mason, this is complex, and I've spent much time with the fiscal office, the nonpartisan fiscal office, on this issue and other issues during my tenure in the legislature. Under that rationale, government could not operate, potentially, for the first few weeks of July. We forecast what the revenue is coming in, and then we pay out what is necessary to operate our government, and in this case, debt to the hospitals.
Mr. Chair, if I can continue. The difference in your bill seems to be in privatization. The continuing privatization of the bill, of the contract as it is now, as opposed to what the governor is saying is that the contract we're talking about, we could farm out different parts of it. I highly doubt that Governor Paul LePage is interested in hiring more government workers, buying warehouse space, and enforcing a contract and returning to agency liquor stores run by the state. I think that we can all agree that that is not in the governor's interest. So my question to you would be, would you accept, would there be some common ground if the governor said, shall provide a contract that does, in his words, takes care of anything but money?
A few points on the issue. First, I obviously had the luxury of working on my legislation and passing it in to revisers long after the governor's office finalized this. It wasn't in terms of delay. I actually worked to speed up the process. Here we are today. So one of my concerns was how to pay off the hospitals or receive the value that the governor's proposing due to the constitutional questions that remain in his bill. As he admitted earlier, we may have to go to the state Supreme Court and ask for a solemn occasion. You do not talk about those issues unless you have concerns about the constitutional questions, in my opinion. In regards to the governor, first and foremost, we can compromise. The governor and I have a difference of opinion. Jerry Reed and I have a difference of opinion. We've had good conversations, Mr. Reed and I. I respect him. I just believe the private sector should operate this business. Now that being said, to your point, I would generally concur. Governor LePage does not want to add additional headcount to the state of Maine. But as he said in his January 18th radio address, he wants to take back the operation of the liquor business. And with all due respect to his plan, they have said that they won't have any additional headcount, or maybe one, but they don't really need to. Whereas if you go out and speak with the current operator, as well as some of the other public operators, one says they'll hire very few front office positions. The current operator has nearly 10. One potential operator told me they'd have 6 to 7. I doubt private business keeps extra people on in this challenging economy. So what is it? Well, I'm relying on the proposal as written. Nevertheless, we can set this all aside, and the governor is right. We need to sit down and hammer this out.
Follow-up.
Yes, and the other part of this conversation that I think needs to be addressed is that the fact that part of this is a way for us to be responsible in issuing bonds. The governor has stated many times that if we go forward with a plan to pay back the hospitals, and he said this in reference to his plan, that we are going to be able to issue other bonds that go to improvement polls. I guess my question is, why is it any different for us to borrow from Wall Street for other bonds? I mean, bonds that we have sent, that we have approved many, many times in the past. Bonds are sold on Wall Street. I'm not going to go to the Lisbon Community Federal Credit Union and ask, hey, you got $200 million for some transportation projects? It's just not going to happen. So, I guess, why is it any different to borrow from Wall Street for those bonds, but it is different to borrow for hospital bonds?
Well, first, I am sure if I can be persuasive to the governor, he would rather pay off in cash than borrowing. As a general rule of thumb, just as you said that you doubt he wants to hire extra state workers, I doubt he would prefer to borrow if he has an opportunity to pay for it in cash. In regards to the revenue bonds, why would we even go down that path if there's another proposal, one that you may have to nuance, you may have to work with, but provides a stream of cash to pay off that debt? In addition to that, money always has a cost. We have great financial institutions in this state that are affiliated and or are national or international. They hire and employ many Mainers. The assumption that this money is going to be borrowed only out of state is one that you can make and you could assume. But at the same time, I think the real important factor is that we get this right, we pay off the hospitals, and we try to minimize the cost of borrowing. You can't get around the fact that borrowing on a revenue bond, at what I confirmed with the Treasurer's Office, and if this structure changes, as I hear it's going to come forward, and I look forward to working with the Governor's Office and all of you, I was quoted a 4% interest rate. I am sure people will come behind me today and dispute that. Up, down, maybe a point here or there. That's $40 million. You got to add in the cost of acquiring that bond. You got to add in the independent study of whether or not the governor's plan is feasible and in a timely manner. Those all accrue. In my plan, the Democratic plan, saves $5 million without any question of paying off by September 30th. To me, that makes a heck of a lot of sense.
Councilman Kitty.
Thank you, Chairman Tuttle, and thank you, Senator Goodall, for your proposal and your testimony today. I guess I just got really just one question. Are you aware of what control other states have over their liquor business and whether any other states completely lease out their liquor operations?
By no means am I an expert on liquor. I'm a beer drinker, actually. But in regards to my experience on this committee, and my interest and knowledge that I've acquired over the years, there are, I believe, 18 other control states. Sometimes I say 16, forgive me if I'm wrong. And other states are currently contemplating going to a similar model. Just as other states have contemplated leasing out its assets, whether that be a highway or whether that be some other mechanism that brings in revenue. You know, what I'm concerned about is not what other states are doing, but what Maine does and how Maine gets it right. That's what we have to focus on, and that's what we have to focus on for the sake of the hospitals and future investments in things such as roads and bridges, water and sewer, our kids, and the health of our citizens.
Okay, the hour is 11:30, and we have a lot of other people that are waiting. Representative Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I just want to say that we have the governor's plan and we have your plan. I don't think we have a Republican plan and a Democratic plan. Sitting on the committee, my job is to get the best deal for the state. So I just wanted to just say that because I don't want people thinking that I'm attached to any plan, or by virtue of my party. But this is not a question to the senator, but a question to the chair. I'm really confused right now because I understand that the bond package is in here, but our job is to make the money and to set the policy framework. And I just feel like this feels very much to me like an appropriations conversation. So I'm just confused as to why the policy committee is talking about how to spend money, and maybe that's just me not, and I get that it's part of the bill, but it just strikes me that this whole how we spend the money should be left up to the appropriations committee. We should determine what is the best deal for the state. So that's just
Well,
my
yes and no. I think it's very apparent, and that's why I encourage the bill to come to the committee, because I know in the past that probably you have not had any part of it, and I think that if you don't listen to the policy committee, you might not even, why should you have them? So I think that in the process, with our experience here, with a number of us on the committee, if we have an idea as far as finance, it will go to the appropriations committee, and I think it will expand the dialogue. Okay, seeing no further questions, Senator Patrick.
Thank you very much. Senator Goodall, this committee has wrestled with the problem of dual distribution many times over. Would you be amenable to possibly amending the bill to encompass dual distribution of fortified wines within this bill?
First, I must apologize to Ms. Timberlake. I mentioned to her that I would bring this issue up. She approached me, and I appreciate that. I had a conversation with her. I think this committee really needs to grapple with that issue, dealing where the percentages are currently, what is currently being done by vendors other than the current contract that operates the state's wholesale liquor. If it's in the best interest of greater predictability, greater business interests of many of these other vendors dealing with beer and wine, then that's something the committee should take very seriously. And it's not up for me to make that judgment. I have not weighed in heavily on it by any means. I would defer to you and the rest of the committee, Senator. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions, Senator Goodall, we thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I might, just in a brief closing statement, there have been a lot of politics involved with this bill, but compromise is not a bad thing. We have competing interests that have, at times, similar visions, but with the same goal, to pay off our hospitals. If we work together with all of you, the governor, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and Representative Russell is right. This isn't any of those bills. It's a Maine state legislative bill. Do what you want with my bill in terms of my name on my jacket. Consider my ideas and do the same for the governor's proposal. Do what's in the best interest of Maine. If we all work together, I'm confident of the outcome. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator.